Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What are some creepy encounters that you've had? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. While working at a Jimmy John's, I did bike delivery and I just got back from a delivery with this lady walking in the store behind me. She asked for a coworker by first and last name. He was working but out on delivery, which we explained to her. Deliveries don't take long, so he was to return within 5 minutes. She said it was fine and let him know his mom stopped by, then she left. My coworker came back about 5 minutes after and we told him about his mom stopping by, to which he replied, "My mom died when I was 3. We were all a little weirded out. This wasn't his hometown, which was 5 hours away, and going on 9 years later, we never saw or heard about this lady again. I brought up this question to my mom just now. She says when I was young and we lived in an apartment, just us, she woke up in the middle of the night while it was pouring rain because she heard a loud noise. She went to the front door and looked through the peephole to see if she could see what made the noise. There was a person standing there, facing the door, hood over their head, repeating over and over, 'Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep.' The creepiest thing is to walk alone as a young girl. I remember a car with 2 grown men in it asking if I wanted a ride. I was 12. I told them I lived right across the street. I did not. They kept following me, and I walked up some random person's driveway and hid on the side of their house, making sure not to move because they had motion sensors. I don't know why I didn't knock and ask for help. I guess I was afraid of what would happen if they didn't answer. They stayed down the street for like 15 minutes waiting for me to come back out. I was hanging out with a coworker. It was supposed to be me and another coworker of ours, my friend, but she couldn't make it last minute. We were watching a movie and he attacked me and held me down. He was trying to undo my pants. I kept telling him to get off me and he wouldn't. I was terrified. He was much stronger than me and I couldn't fight him off. Finally, I told him if he didn't get off, I was going to tell everyone at work that my friend that canceled knows exactly where I am. He let me go and started calling me a bitch and other nasty names. I had to see his smiling, creepy face every time I went to work for months later. When I was in high school, I'm a female and was like 15 at the time, our school would send some of us to community college for college credits. Half of our day was at the high school and the other was at the college. When we were done with our classes, some of my friends and I would wait for the bus to either take us back to our school or to get picked up. I was waiting there alone one day. My class ended before my friends, and then a man came up very close to me and asked me questions about myself or for me to show him things and follow him. He also was just getting too close to me. Anyway, my friend got to the building and noticed what was happening right away, and he tried to help me. He had to sort of lodge himself between the man and I. He even made the excuse that we needed to go to class and walked me to the other side of campus. That man kept following me and would still get so close to me, literally trying to breathe down my neck. My friend still would try to prevent him from getting close to me as we walked. Eventually, when we got to a part of campus with more students, that guy ran off. I was so scared because that man would not leave me alone and try to get me to go in the restroom with him. I don't know what I would have done had my friend not showed up, but that man really creeped me out. A different time, at the same school, I'd accidentally fallen asleep. There were many couch-like seats everywhere and hardly anybody was there, which normally I would not do. This was literally a one-time thing. A different friend was on the seats next to me and thought nothing of it because a lot of people would sleep there. My friend went to the restroom for a bit. This man saw me sleeping alone and came up to me. He started to shake me and yell to wake up. He stayed and talked to me asking if I was a virgin and questions like that while I tried to process what the heck was happening. My friend came out of the restroom and saw what was happening. She came up with an excuse for us to go. Again, creepy to me, I guess. I'm not the best with these situations. I was walking in the parking lot of a mall with my ex-girlfriend and it was 7 p.m. but it was already dark out. I forgot something in the car and we were only about 30 feet from the side entrance of the mall, so I told her I'd meet her inside. As I'm walking back to the car, I hear 2 guys come up from out of nowhere and ask her if they can borrow her phone. Something didn't feel right, so I rushed back over to her and grabbed her hand so we could head into the mall. Sure enough, about 2 weeks later, I saw those same 2 guys on a local news channel because they were arrested for attempting kidnapping of 2 young women. Some years ago, I went to 7-Eleven with my then boyfriend. He went to the falafel place next door while I picked up some snacks. I was just leaving the 7-Eleven when a strange man asked me what I was doing that night. I said, hanging out with my boyfriend? He said, want to come to a Halloween party with me instead? I was nervous, and this caught me off guard, so I kind of nervously laughed and said, "No, thank you," and walked away from him and to the falafel place next door. I told my boyfriend about it and stuck close to him, leaving the falafel place. As we were walking back to my boyfriend's place, I saw the stranger driving away in a white van, always. A few weeks later, I saw him on the bus and pretended not to notice him. Luckily, he didn't seem to notice me, or much around him at all. He seemed to be on drugs and was banging on the bus window and muttering to himself. I know there are some good people that drive white vans, but at this point, it's just a really bad look. Sorry, guys. Went to the school toilet in between class. I was 10 years old back then. Met this girl who wore a head cover like nuns in the toilet. After I was done with my business, while washing my hands, she asked, "What's your name?" I told her my name and she said, "Okay." Due to my innocent child mind, I thought she wanted to be friends. So when she left the toilet, I ran for the door because I wanted to walk with her to class. But the creepy thing is, when I got out, she wasn't there. I was right behind her. The hallway had no doors and I didn't hear running footsteps. Confused on what's happening, I ran to my class, told my classmate and my dad after school, but everyone just brushed it off. Till today, I'm confused on what happened. This story I'm about ready to tell is hard to believe, I know, but hey, maybe you'll believe me. It was around 5 to 7 years ago. My cousin's family from the city went and visited our house and stayed overnight. Me and my family live in the countryside, so our village, though suburban-like, is surrounded by vegetation. 10 years ago, though, the land where my village currently is used to be a huge sugar plantation like 20 kilometers across. We finished having dinner, and I invited my cousin who was a bit younger than me for a walk outside. This was around 8 p.m. By the end of our little stroll around the village, I looked up at the sky to be greeted by thick clouds blocking out the stars. That's when I noticed something strange. Hovering lower than the clouds, there was already low in the sky, was this black thing. It wasn't a hole in the clouds revealing the night sky above it. It was very noticeably a thing. It was like the size of a fighter jet, but solid black. It wasn't moving at all, just hovering. It only caught my attention when I looked up because I couldn't hear anything. It didn't make a sound at all, like zero. The weirdest part of it was that it seemed to know that people on the ground could look at it, and it made it so that it was hard to see and make out what it really was. Sounds strange, I know. What I mean is that when you look at it head on, it's like it's trying to change its shape subtly, so your brain has a hard time understanding the nature of the object, but when you have the object in your periphery, it's as still as an image. It's like it doesn't want your eyes to focus on the object. I called the attention of my cousin to the blackest object I've ever seen, and he just doesn't understand it too. Like when you see something in the sky like a plane or a bird, you understand it. Your brain recognizes it even if you just glanced at the thing. But this, stare at it for as long as you like, it doesn't want you to figure out what it is. It was just black. So I used to walk home / to Target when it was really dark. There's this area on the way to Target that's pitch black and no lights. I loved walking at night. It calmed me down and the views were amazing. This changed when a man ran up to me. At first I didn't think much of it since there's always someone jogging for exercise, but the situation changed when I looked back and the person was running full speed, not in my general direction, towards me. Even if that person wasn't running towards me, no one runs full speed like that. I quickly became the fastest man in the world and made it home in 3 minutes. I'm not really sure if I was being chased, but no one runs at full speed like that, at night, at another person's general direction. This is going to sound stupid and fake, but I have no explanation for it, so here goes. I got into my car one night, and I had this little container for rolling papers in my hand that I was supposed to deliver to a friend. After I sat in the driver's seat, I threw the rolling papers on the passenger side while I was looking at them. They vanished in thin air, I swear to F. I never saw or heard them land, and I haven't found them to this day. I go for lots of night walks, and my area is a bit sketchy, so hell, I have tons of stories I could tell. Snowing night about 2 years ago. Was going for a walk around 3 a.m. I was walking on a narrow pathway in a pretty rural area. It was the middle of the night, so it was absolutely pitch black. I could see absolutely nothing but kept walking straight. I reached an area of the pathway where a small light in the distance lit up the path a little more so I could see my direction better. That's when I saw something obstructing my pathway. There was some sort of object in the direction I was walking. A pretty tall object, looked like a sign or something, so I kept walking. As I got closer, I started making out more about this object and I realized it was actually the silhouette of someone standing there. There was literally an effing person standing in my way, 3 a.m. on a dark path. I probably stood there completely frozen for a few seconds, trying hard to process what I was seeing. And what do you have to do? The figure I was seeing didn't move either. Nope. I turned the hell around and walked straight the way I came, no hesitation. I was sitting in a coffee shop when an older man approached me. He sat down at my table and struck up a conversation with me. He wanted to know all sorts of stuff. We chatted for a while, and then it got around to how old I was. He was shocked I was older, and once he found out, he got up and left. I was glad he was gone. I went to pay my tab, and the barista asked me if that old guy was bothering me. I told him not really, but I was glad he left. A day later, I was at a strip club with my boyfriend, and that guy was there. He approached me again and offered me $500 to go up on stage and strip. I declined. He struck up a conversation again with me. He told me he was a Vietnam vet, and then let me know he had killed a lot of women and children. He told me he liked to rape them and then slit their throats. I noped the F out of there. I ran back to my boyfriend and told him what the guy said, but the guy was gone by the time the bouncer went to look for him. A day later, the news broke that somebody had been killed downtown, a young girl. Someone had stabbed her in the throat from behind, dragged to an alley and raped her while she bled out. I worked with the chief of police's daughter. She told us to watch out because her dad said there was a serial killer running around. She said that this person was traveling 40 and they suspected he was some sort of traveling salesman. That guy told me that he was a traveling salesman, going between Asheville and Indianapolis. He liked to stop in small towns and meet women. I never saw him again after that. I think it was him though. When shopping with my kids, my 8 and 9-year-old girls got a milkshake, so they waited outside a clothes shop for me. A guy sitting across then immediately started smiling at my daughter like a creep. He was staring at her with a horrible smile. She's very pretty and tall and had long brown hair. Her sister is equally as pretty but is shorter and had cut her hair very short so she looked like a boy. I told myself not to be paranoid, but after going back and forth from the shop, I brought them in with me. I walked in front of my girls. I tried making eye contact with the creepy guy, but he kept staring at my daughter. By the time we left the store, he was gone, but I felt so paranoid, I decided just to go back to the bookstore right by the bus stop. Let my kids go to the kids section and followed them down. I normally don't, and go upstairs to the second-hand part of the store. After a few minutes, I start to feel very uncomfortable and tell kids it's time to go. Turn around and creepy guy is stood between 2 aisles with a kid's book in his hand, just staring at my daughter. Grabbed kids and got a cab home. Don't know if he followed us or just a coincidence, but was definitely a warning sign to always keep my eyes on my kids. Thankfully, kids were oblivious.
You did really great, Mom. I personally find it very difficult to think that that was a coincidence.
I think I saw a vision of my cousin's death. I was driving back home from my now ex-girlfriend's place late on a Thursday night, and I kept replaying this odd story in my mind as I drove that a motorcycle or ATV kind of thing flipped over the median and smashed into my car. It pinned me to the driver's seat of my car, and I got super cold and called for Dad, which was weird, because if I was injured, I'd call Mom. Dad works shift and often can't answer the phone. Eventually, in the story in my head, I ended up getting so cold I closed my eyes, and it would repeat over and over again. It repeated till Saturday afternoon, and then it stopped. It was literally all I thought about till Saturday. Saturday night, I got a call from my mom. My cousin, the only one my age, had died in an avalanche. He was found with his snowmobile pinning him to a tree 3 meters under the snow. He froze to death, and after his friends called for help, the first person they called was his dad, because he was closer to him than his mom. To this day, there's still some weird shit that happens that makes me believe in spirits and ghosts. It's been a year and a bit since it happened. My mother and me walked to CVS the other night at around 2:30 a.m. to get some snacks. I have questions. As we approached, a car pulls around from the back and stops. A man wearing a tan bandana around his mouth and hat on steps out, leaves the car running, and walks in. Nothing that strange. When we entered, I look at the man and he looks back suspiciously as he stood in front of the checkout. Again, didn't really strike me as odd because I assumed he was waiting for an employee. In a way, he was, just not a good way. As he began to turn around, I noticed something. He has an effing gun. I get dizzy and begin to force my mother out the front door, and we walk home quickly. While the story isn't the most exciting, it was effing terrifying. I was around 11 or 12 back in the 80s. There was a little corner cafe close to where I lived, and I used to go there after school to play arcade games. People would often stand there and watch you play, or we'd take turns, etc. Sometimes other kids, sometimes adults. The one day, an older guy, mid-20s or so, stood there and watched me play for a good hour, and then suddenly asked if I'd liked Coke, as in the soft drink. Sure, I said, and proceeded to put another coin in for another game. Well, I have some Coke in my apartment, and I live right above the store. Stop by when you're done and I'll give you some. Okay man, will do. He left. I kept on playing, not intending to go anywhere near his apartment for whatever reason he had in mind. About 30 minutes later, he was back down again and wanted to know why I hadn't come up yet. I told him I'm just finishing my game. He said, okay, and left. I ran home soon as he was out of sight. Didn't go back to that place for quite a while.
I wonder if the Coke he was offering was the Coke you think he was offering. Either way, good job getting out of there.
Once, me and my friends, at the time 17, were hanging out on the rooftop of a mall. It was a garden, when this homeless man came along and started talking to us. We tried to be polite and listen to what he had to say, and he started talking about this woman he was in love with and how he can't see her for some reason or another. He had a bag which he opened and offered us items, such as markers and other things he'd found. I decided to take a small clock, which was definitely stolen, and my friend asked for a cigarette. He later threw it out because he didn't trust it being broken. He kept saying how cute of a couple we were, and my friend kept telling him I had someone already. When he would talk, he would be right up in our faces, and it was super uncomfortable. We soon escaped and talked to some friends about it. Turns out, he was a pedo who kept hitting on kids around the mall. He didn't really hit on us, but it was really weird that he started talking to us while we were minding our business.